Here. Over there. Okay. All right.
Water.
Yeah, you know.
Not a whiskey night.
Nah. I'm gonna do a pass, I think. Wouldn't mind, but nah. Sorry, man, we had a meet up last night and drank a lot, so try to detoxify a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, brother, you want to do intro?
You're listening to PHP Ugly, episode 102. I'm Tom Rideout. With me, as always, is Eric Van Johnson.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
That's good. Good.
And our frequently missing co-host, John. What is going on? Where's John?
I'm not sure. I think he's eloped with his other secret business partner or something. I'm not even sure where he's at right now. No, I know where he's at. He went up north to hang out with a client. So
Ooh.
yes, he's doing the work thing, a little schmoozing with a client.
Sounds nice. Got to spend those Apple gift cards.
That's right. What have you been up to this week?
Oh, it's been hellacious.
Hellacious.
10-hour days every day this week.
Oh, this is your first week back to work, right?
God, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a lot of catch-up activity going on.
Yep, vacations are no vacation.
They really aren't.
The work waits for you to get back to work. The stress of traveling and trying to coordinate family, and yeah, there's nothing fun about vacation.
Yeah, no, it's been exhausting. Yeah, it's been really exhausting. I got off work yesterday at 8 o'clock. Got off work today at 7 o'clock. I did a production push today at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
Which
on a Thursday? 6 o'clock at night on Thursday?
So not hyped for that.
That's rough. Huh? I applaud you.
Yeah. But besides that, things have been all right.
I got a couple questions to ask you.
Fire away.
Well, first thing, we had a meetup here in San Diego last night. Our buddy and fellow Diego dev developer Marcus Moore, and actually co-organizer Marcus Moore, did a talk on chatbot. Chatbots are fun, right? And there's Botman now, which is a PHP kind of chatbot implement. Not kind of. Botman is an implementation for chatbots in PHP. Right. And they even have one that's specifically, like, they have this template one called Botman Studio, which is a Laravel app that's all pre-configured for chats and stuff. And Marcus had reminded me during his presentation that I had actually deployed Botman Studio for Wave PHP. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I have a bot out there for Wave PHP on Telegram. I was just experimenting with it. And so I opened up my Telegram, and sure enough, it's still out there listening, waiting to do replies and
looking for love.
Looking for love. So I think Marcus, I was telling Marcus that he's kind of inspired me to go back to that little bot and try to hype it up a little bit and actually make it functional by the time the conference gets here. Like, what I would love for it to do is, the way I envision it is actually during the conference, somebody wakes up and they pop on Telegram and they ask the Wave PHP bot what sessions are happening today, and Wave PHP bot will reply. So I don't know.
Seems like it wouldn't be a tough one.
Yeah, it seems like it should be very doable. So I'm gonna try to get that done over the next couple of months, I guess. But yeah, that was fun. But I was going somewhere with that. How did I start that conversation off?
You had a meetup this week.
I did.
You were going to ask me a question.
I was going to ask you a question. How did that tie together? Oh, I remember now. So we had somebody at the meetup, and he pulled me. He didn't pull me aside. He after the meetup, he came up to me and was talking to me a little bit, and he was talking to me about a topic that I'm like, that's a pretty good topic. Maybe we'll address it in the next meetup. Then as I was driving home, I'm like, you know what? I really should make that. I really should do a blog post on that. And then I'm thinking, I don't do blog posts. I just talk on a podcast, and that's basically my blog post nowadays. So I'm like, I need to remember to bring this up to Thomas and see what he has to say about it. Unfortunately, John's not here. I would really like John's input as well. I think we could all contribute to this. But the question was, he's been a developer for a long time. He's worked for a couple companies now, and he's pretty skilled. The company he's currently working at has decided to go remote, fully remote.
Okay, nice.
He's never been in that position before, so he's never had to not go to an office, and he had a lot of great questions and concerns, and a lot of it was focused around how do you stay focused, how do you not get distracted, and I had some input, but I guess before I go with what I said, let me ask you. You've been a remote worker for what, 5 years now, 10 years now?
Yeah, about 5 years now, I think.
Okay, 5 years now. What if this person had come to you? What would have been like? Give me three must dos as a remote worker.
I mean, the first thing is know that you can do it. And if you can't do it, accept that about yourself. There are people who can do it and people who can't do it. And the people who can't do it have this tendency to get stuck underperforming, unenthusiastic, and just sort of this absentee type thing, which a lot of companies will say, hey, as long as you're performing at the median level, then we're going to keep you at the median position and median pay. You're not. So if your intention is to elevate your career and you're working from home, I mean, first step is it's hard to elevate your career working from home. You get forgotten. But you can also be your own worst enemy by allowing yourself to be forgotten. So that's, I mean, to me, number one is know if you can do it and get out if you can't. Number two would be establish a schedule, stick to it, and don't let yourself think that because you're working from home, you have more time than normal. If there's a situation where I have to pick up my kids or do a doctor's appointment, I make sure I contact everybody who's needs to know and let them know that it's happening before I do it. I don't just do it and not notify anybody, which happens a lot. There's a lot of work from home people who you contact them and they say, oh, I'm in a totally different city right now. And you're like, well, what are you doing? You're supposed to be at work, at the office. And the third thing is establish with your significant other and that you're working. For me, when 3:00 hits, the kids come home and my wife wants a break from the kids, but she can't. She has to know that she still can't have a break from the kids because I'm, quote unquote, not there. I'm at the office. I have to keep working. So those are the big key things that can really make or break you from working from home.
That's great. I think pretty much echoed a similar response. The big thing I told him, well, one was exactly what you said. You have to establish a schedule with yourself. For me, you know, and you've heard me talk about this. I tweet about it all the time. But for me, it's my dog. My dog wakes me up in the morning around 6 or 7, and he wants to go to the park. And that's kind of as silly as it is, that's kind of the start of my schedule. So that's my time where I take him to the park. I I kind of focus on what I need to do for that day. So my clock is already kind of ticking as far as I feel like I'm kind of getting in work mode, and I try not to check any emails or anything at that time, and I'm trying to get better at that. And we can talk on that a little later. But typically, what I'll do is when it's getting close to the end of his walk, I'll pull up my email and see if there's anything I need to address as soon as I get back to the office. Start to swipe away the newsletters and just worthless emails, so that when I'm down to emails that do need to be addressed. And then that's it. I get home, I feed the dog, and boom, I'm at work now. And that's kind of my preparation time. But that's my
that
schedule.
sounds very similar to mine.
Yeah, and I have to have that now, because if I didn't, I would lay into bed. I would lay in bed until 8, 9, 10 o'clock and think, okay, I'll get started in a half hour. I'll get started in 20 minutes, and probably wouldn't. So that's really important.
You have a slightly different situation though, is that you are your boss, so you don't have someone messaging you saying this needs to be taken care of right now, or we're waiting on you for this or this.
Oh, I actually get that all the time, probably more than you do, because I have multiple clients who basically expect us to be at their beck and call 24/7. So, yeah, I mean, no, I do get that, but I get what you're saying. I mean, for you, your office starts at whatever time it starts, at 8, 9 o'clock.
Right.
So you kind of can get that. I see what you're saying there. Yeah, that does make sense. I think you're right as well. Like, one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have more free time, and I think you kind of nailed it. One of the things I struggled with the most before we've really got our business going, is that I had a real difficult time understanding when I should be done with work.
Yeah.
I would just find myself working until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, because I just felt this obligation to kind of keep going. And I've tried to get better with that. Over the recent years, I try to at least make sure. Again, I'm in a different situation where I'm running a business with multiple clients, so I don't have an 8-hour workday, and fortunately, my wife is understanding that. She realizes that, and she's accommodating. So I do work more than 8 hours, but I have tried to establish breaks of where at least I'm going to have dinner with the family. I'm taking an hour or two and watching TV or talking to the family. Yeah, and I know John, my business partner, so he's running the business as well. He has tried to, or he has established harder stops, and he needs to, because he has a younger family, like you and your wife, who she's taking care of the children. His wife takes care of their children, and you guys have to tag team. They need a break. So he's established hard stops. So yeah,
I have a real hard time with that. And one of the things is, in an office, when people are leaving the office, they wave and say goodbye. But in the Slack channel, people aren't up on saying, "Hey, I'm leaving now."
Yeah.
So I'll be working on something and then look at the Slack channel and realize that everyone's gone idle an hour ago, and I've just been working while they were all gone. Or
So another problem I have with working remote is I've never officially been diagnosed with it, but I've talked to a lot of people, and they've encouraged me to be evaluated for it. But I'm pretty sure I have some form of ADHD where I have focus issues. And so for me, one of the things I absolutely have to have, and really kind of the thing that dictates my life, is my to-do list. My to-do list, I mean, I have it pretty tweaked out now, where it's tied into my calendar, it's tied into GitHub pull requests, it's tied into our ticketing system for one of our clients. So when somebody opens a ticket for me, it goes on my to-do list, and my to-do list basically manages my life for me. So I have a calendar that I'll look at. I have my GitHub pull requests I'll look at, but everything feeds into my to-do list, and that really is what tells me what I'm doing day to day. And
I tried to do that.
yeah, I can't get away from it. And matter of fact, I've gotten even more strict with it. I use Todoist, which is online to do, very simple service. There's a bunch out there. There's Asana, Remember the Milk. Todoist to me was the reason I went with it is because like every other service that I ever see that ties into some sort of to-do system always ties into Todoist. And Todoist doesn't try to be a lot more than what it is. It's a pretty simple interface. But I have, and it has the ability to tag tasks, right? So I have
and set them as like soon or repeating or never ending. Yeah, there's a bunch of functionality in it that I like.
Yeah, and so I have tasks that I assign. I have a tag called My Six, and this comes from a philosophy that I heard. I forget where I heard it at exactly, but the idea is that a person can only work on 6 items at a time. So if I have more than 6 things in my to-do list, if I have more than 6 things tagged as my 6, then I know I have to drop something off. I can't work on anything else. And so I'm constantly kind of going into my 6, especially when I'm sitting here and I might be between meetings or between doing things and thinking, okay, what should I be working on? I just go straight to my 6 list and see what's in there and say, okay, these are the things I should be focused on now. But my to-do list, it really, really dictates what I do day to day.
So like if I put something in there that you didn't know, would you just do it because it was there?
That's how I do that. I do that to John because him and I actually share projects. So I'll actually create tasks for him and assign them to him, and then occasionally he does them.
Clean out litter box.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so that was another big thing I said. Focus, I touched on focus with the to-do, but like for me, I started using an app called Focus, which actually shuts down things like YouTube for me. Because
oh God, YouTube is so mandatory for me.
See, now I'm going to tell you what I told this individual yesterday is I used to tell myself that it was background noise. Like I wasn't really watching it, that it was just something there so that, I can work. But I've really discovered, and I honestly blame you and John for this because I discovered it when I was watching that other series you guys got me hooked on.
Minefield, yeah.
Minefield. I noticed that I would keep that minefield running, and I was telling myself, oh, it's just background noise. I'm working on something here. But I could feel like my productivity slowing down. And so now
I have channels for when I can pay attention and when I just need noise.
Okay. So what are your just noise channels then?
My just noise channel is a lot of tech quickies, tech reviews.
That wouldn't work for me either.
Stuff. Well, it's stuff I don't care about, like the latest CPU architectures and things like that, or people building stuff. People building shelves.
Are you not a fan of music? Do you not listen to music?
No.
Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll have that's my just noise channel is music, but I can't and it shuts down Reddit, like things like Reddit as well, because it's just so easy to sit here and open up a tab and just instantly start typing REDDI, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to see if there's anything new in the PHP channel, or it's just some bad habits I'd gotten into. So I've started using Focus. I shared that with John. He seems to like it as well.
Something pissed off the office manager.
Yeah, the chief barking officer here is upset. What's wrong? He's the CPO, Chief Bark. Let me see what's happening here. We're back. Here's your hard cut. Oh, my daughter has taken care of the office manager. All right. Okay. So yeah, focus is always a challenge. Well.
That's the big thing. That's one of the things that if you can't do it, you can't do it. If you're work from home and you can't tear yourself away from Reddit, then you need to change something.
Yeah. And I think you touched on another really good one. Is the office manager back?
Yeah, he's right behind you.
Wow, that was quick. The other one I thought you touched on really well, which I think gets overlooked a lot, especially with companies that are moving to remote, that aren't traditionally remote, is two things. One, setting up a clear line of communication, whether that's Slack or whatever it is. It should be a very simple, this is how you get in touch with us. And everybody should be getting in touch with everybody the same way. I've worked at places where some people were on Skype, some people were on Hangouts, some people were here, some people were there. Everybody has to communicate the same way, and it needs to be fairly simple. And the other big thing, especially if you're in a position where you're thinking about having remote workers, and there's that other side of it as well. There's the people who have to manage remote workers, whether sometimes they're not always remote. You know this, like the people that manage you, they're not remote. They're in an office. If you're in that position, you need to have clearly defined milestones and targets that you can measure the productivity of the remote workers, not to give them a hard time or trying to make them work harder, but so that you can identify when they're struggling and when they're having issues. Like if everybody's in an office.
Let me expand on that. If you're hiring a new worker and they're going to be a work from home employee, then you have that evaluation period. But if you're doing something like converting a company to work from home, you're taking long-standing existing employees and potentially unwillingly putting them in a work environment they don't want. And I see companies fail this all the time, where they will drop productivity, they will have problems with HR where people just aren't showing up, things like that. And there needs to be a manager saying, okay, well, while we're doing this, there's an evaluation period. Since we're doing it to you, then we're going to take that into account. But if you need to go to a co-working space, then we will tell you we need you to go to a co-working space and we will pay for it.
That is a great point, Thomas. I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually a really fantastic point. Is working remote doesn't necessarily mean working from home. And again, for me, like I couldn't work remote if I didn't have an area established. So I have my office. And but not everybody has that luxury of having rooms that they can dedicate to an office.
Right. You're offloading. The reason you're doing this going remote thing is you're offloading an expense, but there are definitely situations where you're offloading that expense to your employees. And that is the last thing you want. You need to evaluate how much expense you're offloading and how much you can spend to reduce that strain on the employee. Because if I'm looking for new houses that have an office because I have to have an office in my new house, then something is wrong with the relationship between me and my company. Are they covering the change in expenses from me now needing an office at home? Or are they covering my internet expenses because it's going to go up because I need a higher quality internet access? The things like that. And you can save a lot of money by going remote, but you need to make sure that you're not also losing efficiency or ostracizing your employees, because employees don't always want it.
Right. And as a person working remote, what you don't want to do, and what seems like it would be easy to do, is say, oh yeah, no, I'll just grab my laptop and work on the couch. You don't want your work environment invading your personal living space.
No, absolutely not. You can't touch your bed while you're working. Well, I have my office in my bedroom, but I have a police tape around my bed in my head. Do not touch. This is not related to the office in any way. I don't allow myself to ever play video games on the same computer that I do work on. Especially during work hours. During lunch, when I take my lunch break, I go to my gaming computer in a different room and I play video games on that computer. I don't mingle the two together in any way, because there's these tangible or these intangible relationships that you build in your head that you can't let them break down just because your work environment has changed.
Right. Yeah, I think that co-working facility, that's a great point. Yeah, that's working remote, and you're not working from home. And the other thing, we don't need to keep going on about this, but the other thing I kind of want to put out there, one last point, is for employees, people who are supervising remote workers. Where I was leading to before was that when everybody's coming into an office, we're talking about a person slipping, like productivity slipping. And it might not be laziness, right? There might be other issues. And
I think it's rarely laziness. I think it's circumstance.
Yeah. Right. And my point was that when everybody's coming into an office, you have that personal interaction, and you can kind of see when things are bothering somebody, and maybe they're moving slower, or maybe they're sore, or they had a rough night, but you have that physical connection. And when people are remote, you don't have that physical connection. So you have to have a better sense of how to make that determination, how to understand when somebody's maybe dealing with an issue or having problems. So that would be another thing.
HR has to be aware that a remote employee functions differently than an in-office employee, and that if a person is showing up to work crying a week straight, HR is going to get involved. But you can't see if that's happening in a remote employee. All you see is a reduced productivity or whatever. I think every time I've worked remote, I've felt like HR hasn't properly addressed the issues that a remote employee faces.
Yep. All right. So let's move on from that. I think that was a pretty good discussion. I just covered my mouth from talking. Sorry. I think that was a pretty good discussion, and we might follow up back on it. I might do a blog post. I don't know yet. I have all these great ideas for blog posts, and then realize I don't like doing blog posts. But something interesting came up. I think you'll appreciate. I hope we haven't talked about this in the past. I don't feel like we have.
Is this a secret thing you were telling me about?
Yeah. I mentioned part of my routine is taking the dog for the walk in the morning. And what used to occupy that time for me, because I wasn't working, is I listen to podcasts. I'm notorious for all the podcasts I listen to. At the hype of my podcast listening days, I was probably listening to 10 to 15 podcasts a week, and really kind of appreciating them all. Over the last month, I've started cutting back, not because of any particular reason. It's just I don't know. I felt like I was getting tired of listening to them, and I've been cutting back. So I listen to a very select couple of podcasts now, and I don't, outside of ours. Of course, I listen to ours all the way through, so I can criticize you.
We discussed that before we started going on air. The quality of my editing is slipping a little bit.
But besides ours, I have a very select one or two podcasts I listen to, and I don't even listen to them faithfully. I might listen to 2 podcasts a week, and they won't always be the same podcast. Matter of fact, they rarely are, because few podcasts actually record weekly like we do. So,
like insane people.
I've moved away from podcasts a little bit. I've gotten a little bit into audiobooks, and I've been listening to them. But I might be going back to podcasts listening again for a couple reasons. One, somebody's posted a curated list of programming podcasts. So the thing I like about this is that it has good podcasts on all these different languages, and things that I like listening to things outside the scope of PHP. But obviously,
which I need to do too.
Yeah, I strongly recommend it. Some of my favorite podcasts are the Rails podcast, the Ruby and Rail podcasts, because they talk a lot about patterns and philosophies and things like that. It's just kind of something I've noticed of all the podcasts I listen to. They seem to geek out on that sort of stuff more than other languages. But I digress. Of course, I'm looking at this list, and the list is called, I had it open and now I closed it, Awesome Podcasts. And I'll add it. I didn't want to add it to the notes too quickly because I didn't want you to ruin those. But of course,
are we on it?
Being who we are, I jumped straight to the PHP section, because there is a PHP section, to see if we made the cut. What is your on a scale from 1 to 10? What do you think are the chances we're on the list?
4.
4? Oh, you gave it. You get it. See, I've given up. I'm like, we never get recognized for anything. Not only, Thomas, not only are we on the list, we are the only PHP podcast on the list.
Really? So they're like, it's just another case of people making fun of PHP then. You ever wonder what PHP podcasters sound like? Listen to these assholes.
and I was so taken back by that. I'm like, holy crap, we're on the list.
And we're the only ones surprise on the list. Me.
And I was so taken back. I'm like, oh shit, one of us added it, didn't we? So because it's in GitHub, you can look up the blame.
Oh,
so
no.
I looked to see who contributed. No. It's fine.
Was it Sean?
Not only did none of us contribute it, but nobody I know off the top of my head contribute. Like none of our regular listeners who talk to us in chat or tweet about us. The person who contributed, it looks like a Rails developer. And I'm like,
really?
This is awesome. Yeah, totally, man. Just look at the blame on the repo. And it's I feel like it's okay to share his name, but I don't know. I felt weird sharing his name, but it's there. I mean, anybody can see it.
We're in violation of EU law.
Huh?
Sharing names now. If we have to delete the episode if he doesn't want his name said.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I won't share his name, but because it was GitHub, I did pop over to his GitHub profile, and I mean he has a bunch of Rails repos. So
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. Oh, he does have a Laravel repo here.
We
Is
have
that Laravel?
episodes that have 700 downloads.
You're out of your mind.
No, episode
What?
91, 700 downloads. Episode 100, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, 626 total downloads.
What?
Eric Gets Fired is number 8 or 7 on the list now. You're no longer
Wow.
the top.
Maybe
What's going on?
Okay, I gotta look at this now. You're talking about analytics in Simplecast, right?
Yeah.
Look how good these analytics are.
Not.
Yeah. Look at that. Wow. That's I don't see I do see the top 10. Yeah.
That's crazy.
People are listening.
Oh God, that's terrifying.
You know the thing that always surprises me about the top 10, and I think it's a trend. I mean, in my head, it gets interpreted as a trending thing. It's like, of the top 10, they're all like within like the top, within like the last 15 shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, except for Eric Gets Fired is episode number 69. So that was like,
yeah, that was still hanging. That was still hanging in there, isn't it? That bastard.
I think we excited a lot of people falsely with that title. This is crazy. You know, I hadn't looked at this in a while. I don't want to be famous like this. Although now we did have another user tweet at us, and you didn't get the tweet at all. I don't know why. It doesn't show up for you. But he said he was burning his way from starting at episode 1, and he was up to episode 50 something, which
He's a maniac
was just such a tragic thing to hear. First off, up to episode 59, started at episode 1. And
I felt like we needed. I felt like it was a plea for help or something. Like, I can't stop listening. Send somebody.
Tweeted him the suicide hotline number. No, it's one of the interesting things, though, is that we established this podcast as a way of keeping contact with each other and covering the things we were interested in, because I moved, or because I was becoming unavailable to frequently see you guys. And a lot of the commentary that I've seen is that it sounds like friends hanging out talking about tech stuff.
Which is so crazy, because we really don't like each other at all.
I love you. Wait a second.
This is awkward.
Oh. Now I'm sad.
Who drove across county to see you when you flew out here? Who?
You did.
That's right, I did.
And John just asked if we were having the podcast without me.
Hey, that reminds me, next week, no podcast.
Really?
Well, we're in Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just do it on my own.
You'll just pop on and
fly solo.
That's going to be some weird conversations talking to yourself, you know.
They're not as weird.
What did you do this week? I don't know. Just sat around. Oh, didn't know that. All right, cool. So yeah, no. Well, there may be a special episode. Maybe you need to find a special guest host or something. Get some other Diego Dev people on here. You can harass them. You know, that
might be fun.
In 102 shows, we've only had one show where we've had somebody outside our little PHP Ugly people on the show with us.
Yeah, Frank.
We had Frank on once?
Yeah, Frank was at your place hanging out with you, and he was on.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about when the North meets South guys joined us for our 1 year. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
So that was the only one I had remembered. But yeah, maybe you need to do that. Maybe you need to pull on another host.
Now, we were going to talk two things this week, but
Okay.
John is completely absent.
Mhm.
We were going to talk crypto, which crypto, I mean, it's just
that would be a good topic for next week.
yeah. The last time we talked about crypto was completely different world. Things have changed so dramatically, and it keeps going. But we were also going to talk dark patterns.
Okay.
However, the Facebook thing keeps coming up. So this week, there were 2 days of testimony by Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch any of it?
Yeah, I watched a lot of it. Way more than I probably should have. Talking about issues with focus. Yeah. Yeah, I watched a lot of it. It was painful. It was so painful because they didn't even know what questions to ask or what answers they were expecting to get.
Right. Some of them did. Some of the guys knew what they were talking about. A lot of them were just like, what is the Facebook? And that was terrible. There were a lot of questions about the implications of the Russian involvement, and which completely misses the point of the problem. It was a very scattershot process. But
I do want to lead into this because I do have a feeling about this. Whether you agree or disagree with the way Facebook manages are doing things in their business model, and I'm not 100% on board, and don't use Facebook, blah blah blah. I'm all that. I will back Zuckerberg, specifically Mark Zuckerberg, but Facebook to a degree, in the sense that they established an industry that wasn't really established, or they were the forerunners of an industry that wasn't really established, and so there were no hard, fast rules going into this, and we're starting to discover, much like a lot of other industries, construction and assembly lines, that we can't just let the companies decide what the rules are. We need to kind of figure this out and start to establish things ourselves. And that's kind of where we are with Facebook. It's like, I don't think they were intentionally trying to be evil. I just think that they were in a position where they're like, okay, there are no real rules here, so let's do this, and let's see what this does, and let's see what this does. And so I will give them that. And the fact that you get some of these senators and congressmen and political figures just in general sitting on their high horse as a Monday morning quarterback saying, this was terrible, what you did was terrible. Right. And it's like, listen, dudes, this is not this hasn't been written out before. We haven't gone down this path before. So, whatever.
Well, last week I shared a new website that I've been following, Stratechery.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation last week was about boy, I can't even remember what it was now. But let's see. We've got show notes. I can look at it. No, not helpful at all. Well, Stratechery is a tech commentator, makes his living on this website. He just has an opinion, voices it, and he is amazingly good. Mm-hmm. He wrote a breakdown of what happened in the Senate and the House and explained the politics, the business, and the technological issues behind all of the things that were brought up. And it's a bit of a long read, but it is so worth it. I mean, it's so well analyzed. And it comes down to the fact that Zuckerberg stated that he wants Facebook to be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because there are only two options in this scenario, which is regulation or being broken up into multiple companies. And Facebook has a very, very broad interest that is not just the Facebook website. They have an advertising platform that expands far outside of the social network's reach. They also own the Oculus Rift company. They are the owners of technology that is going to push the next generation of computer use and technology. They don't want to be broken up as a monopoly. So when he was most uncomfortable was when people asked him if he was a monopoly. If they said, what's your competition, was when he got the most uncomfortable, because he knows that regulation is coming and that to embrace it is the best option for Facebook. And in saying that he wants to be regulated, Facebook's stock shot up, which you wouldn't expect as an outside viewer. But if you understand that the stock market was looking to see what was going to happen, he dominated the conversation, led everyone to the final destination that he wanted people to end up at. So even though it was horrifically uncomfortable and he looked terrible, like
you thought he looked terrible. A lot of people said that.
Real bad.
First thing, I'm really curious about how much training he did to go into there, like how much prep he did, because he had very like pattern sort of responses, how he responded, but I see that a lot. I saw that a lot on Twitter. I don't know. I didn't see it that way when I was looking at it. I couldn't imagine being up there. Could you imagine testifying in front of Congress? I mean, we're normal.
I'm a normal guy. I couldn't imagine testifying in front of Congress, but you have to remember that what 80% of the people he was testifying in front of, he had personally given money to. The people. I mean, he was on the hot seat, but he was being interviewed by people who he was a campaign contributor for, and who are coming up for re-election in like 6 months. So no one was going to come out and just burn him. They kind of tried, and they made these snarky comments, but I get the feeling that a lot of it was a shadow play that he was feeding. I mean, first off, I think him looking terrible was on purpose. I don't think he wanted to come off as arrogant.
What do you mean by he looked terrible? I mean, what looked terrible about it?
He had essentially a $2 haircut. And
he's always had that.
Sure. For some reason, he had no eyebrows. He was sitting on a booster seat.
Yeah, what's the story of the booster seat?
I think he's positioning himself to seem weak and vulnerable. I think if you look at Martin Shkreli, the asshole that everyone hates, you know, Pharma Bro? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's this picture of smug, rich asshole. And he's in jail because he testified in front of Congress, and he was a rich, smug asshole.
The guy who upped the pharmacy.
Right, Pharma Bro.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, Pharma Bro. I get it.
I very strongly believe that Mark Zuckerberg said, I want the opposite. I want to come off as a toddler sitting in a high chair with a haircut he did himself in a suit that looks like it came off the rack. Because the dude's worth billions.
That was the one thing I did notice. The tie. There was something about the tie. Right. Like it wasn't quite nudged up all the way. It was like loose and didn't look like it was tied correctly. That was the only thing that was bugging me. It's like, what is with that? You're like
there was billionaire.
Fix your tie.
Something that bugged everybody. And I think that was a well-orchestrated plan to come off as the victim, or at least less of the aggressor, less of the Lex Luthor character. Because if he wanted to look like Jesse Eisenberg, he could. You know, don't forget that the guy who played him in The Social Network also literally played Lex Luthor. So I think it was a very intentional, and I know that sounds bizarre, but when you're worth billions and billions of dollars, and your testimony could increase your net worth by $3 billion in 2 days, which it literally did, then yeah, I'll get a shitty haircut to make $3 billion today. That's nothing. If you look at what people post on Facebook, they'll run out into the street naked for $100. Okay. I think what he did was put himself in a position where he seemed vulnerable and said, yes, we made mistakes. Please don't yell at me. I'm so cold. Is it anybody else cold in here?
So
my nose is running.
You hinted around last week that you may be considering deleting your Facebook account. Have you given that any more thought, or have you executed on that?
It really hinges on what comes out of this, because if they talk about breaking up Facebook, then it fundamentally changes what Facebook's business model would be.
That's a weird concept to me. It's like, what would breaking up Facebook look like? It's not like the bells, where it was a utility that people had to have, and that they were blocking other companies from installing phone lines and from running phone lines to houses. I can't get my head around what breaking up Facebook. Like, if Microsoft didn't get broken up in the 90s and 2000s, there's no way something like Facebook could be broken up for any reason.
That's where I disagree. So there's enough anger, and really
anger is not justification, though.
Dangerous legal precedent
against a company. It's not justification for a government to go break them up. And that's the important part. It's like our government is not allowed to just walk in and break up companies whenever they just get upset with them. And so,
but what they can do is write a law that says this company should be broken up because of this new reason. And the antitrust laws are kind of written that way.
Antitrust? What antitrust? They're not supplying a service to people. The people are the product, and that was even stated in this testimony.
Yes, and that's the concern, is that the people are unaware that they're the product, and this is a fundamental shift in people's understanding of their value. So again, to a service provided.
The same argument could be made about EULAs back in the 90s, or even today for that matter. But when Microsoft were in
that's a segue. That's a segue, and you have to hold on to it, because the EULAs come up in this podcast as well.
Okay. All right.
I will tell you, if you were to break up Facebook, here's what you would do. You would say, provide the platform, but do not provide the data to an outside party. If you want to advertise on TV, you get these really generic viewer information things.
Not going to happen. I mean, you can say what you would like, and that's people saying, I still want Facebook, but I want to be protected. You're like forcing a company to continue to offer a service and not make a profit from you anymore.
Oh no,
it's not going to happen. Again, you can say as much as you want. You can be as mad at Facebook. We are in a free enterprise. If you hate Facebook, don't use Facebook. Delete your account. But the government cannot go in there and break them up because people are mad at them. If people are mad at them,
but that's like saying
need to stop using them.
That's like saying, if you don't like AT&T, don't have a phone.
No, it's not like saying that. That's my point. It's not like saying that at all. It's not like saying, because you have to have a phone. That's a requirement. You don't have to have Facebook. You don't need Facebook to survive. You don't need Facebook for people to communicate with you. Facebook is not a necessity.
But to join certain conversations, you do have to be on Facebook.
No, you don't. You don't, and that's the misconception, and that's the problem with
people. 2 billion people on Facebook.
That's I don't care how many people are on Facebook. That's the problem with people who base their value to society on their followers. I'm this person because I have this many followers on Twitter. No, you're not. You're that doesn't make you any better of a person. What have you done? Facebook.
Well, then when does something become a utility?
when it becomes a necessity for people to survive day to day. Plumbing is a utility. Electricity.
There are people for whom they've absolutely believe that Facebook is a need to survive.
Completely, and I need beer to survive. I can state that I need my scotch to survive. But it's not a reality.
There are a lot of people whose entire careers are based off of social network interactions.
I don't
Instagram,
care.
Facebook.
You can try to argue this with me as much as you want. You're wrong.
Oh, I know.
And because you're wrong, is why the government can't go in there and break them up. So,
can't break them up. Maybe could break them up. Technically could. Technically absolutely capable of doing it. However, like I said, Facebook wants to be regulated. And this comes the same time that the European regulations are coming into play. So the European regulations, the GDPR, is essentially what would be done if we were going to regulate Facebook. It establishes that personal data has value, permanently belongs to the person it comes from, has to be opted into, not opted out of, can be opted out of at any time. The company has to respond and confirm that all of their data has been removed. This applies across the board. It's fascinating to me that this has not come up in any of the technical conversations that I've seen this week, because not only is it what the future legislation towards Facebook is going to look like in the United States, but it actually applies to the United States as it stands right now. So when this goes into effect, I believe in 2 weeks, if you have any personal data that can be tied to a citizen of the European Union, you are held under these regulations now. And it is an incredible amount of work.
All right. There's a lot to discuss there. I don't know how much I feel like going into it, but
that's why I dumped it all at once. You can pick the part you can pick the part you hate about me the most, and then argue with me about that.
The problem with these regulations is, what are the consequences? The government is going to sue, Joe's Crab Shack because
individuals can sue. So it's not the government that will sue. Individuals will be suing. And this is very similar to what happened when the access laws for wheelchairs got very strictly enforced in California, is that an individual can go from location to location, break out a measuring tape, and then sue them for a failure to pass. And there are plenty of companies. If you look around California, you'll notice that every 7-Eleven has a very nice, perfectly graded wheelchair ramp, because there was one guy who literally went to every 7-Eleven in California and sued them one at a time. And he made a lot of money. And the same thing is going to happen with the GDPR. People will say, I registered for your website, and then I tried to remove my data, and I couldn't. You didn't respond for 4 weeks. I'm now suing you for $1 million. Because of our trade agreements with the EU, they have the authority to do that in the United States, even though they're an EU citizen. So this is going to be huge. If small websites fall under this just as much as big websites, and big websites are going to be accommodating to this, but if you run a parking ticket payment company and you don't scrub the data the moment the person pays their bill, then you'll be sued for $1 million. Just...
Right.
And that's the thing that surprises me. This information, I mean, this is what's going to happen, is that somebody's going to start suing websites one after the other, and then it's going to hit all the big news media where it says one man sues 4,000 websites, and everyone's going to go, what? Why? And it's because we're not paying attention.
No, it's going to be because somebody was whining about Facebook one time, and we decided to implement all these regulations, and now this is a better world where everybody can sue everybody.
This regulation is an update to the initial regulation, the 1995 EU Data Protection Directive. This is significantly before Facebook. So the GDPR replaces the Data Protection Act of 1998, which was a law enforcement of the 1995 EU Data Protection Directive.
Yeah.
So they've been thinking about this for a long time. And and this is what's going to happen in the US. When we do regulate Facebook, it will look exactly like this. But it means that we're all going to fall under it as well. And fortunately, a lot of the senators who were
this is your doom and gloom section, by the way. This is your doom and gloom.
Oh, I know.
You're beating this dead horse now.
But fortunately, some of the senators at the hearings with Zuckerberg stated very clearly that this kind of regulation cements Facebook's monopoly and should not be implemented in the United States because it weakens the ability to have competitors. So
how's that? I really don't want to talk about this topic more, but how does that regulation weaken competitors?
Because compliance with this regulation is going to be shockingly expensive.
I don't buy that either. I mean, I don't buy that this weakens competitors to Facebook. I just don't buy it. I did have one more Facebook thing, and again, I'm not trying to beat this dead horse at all, but my wife, this actually involves my wife. My wife sends me a screenshot today and says, "Hey, should I be doing something with this?" And it's a message from Facebook on her Facebook app that says, "Protecting your information. We understand the importance of keeping your data safe. We have banned the app, This Is Your Digital Life, which one of your friends used Facebook to log into."
So
we did this because the app may have misused some of your Facebook information by sharing it with a company called Cambridge Analytica.
Yep.
In most cases, the information was limited to public profile, page likes, birthdays. It has a little bit more verbiage here, but it's not important. But I thought that was really interesting. It wasn't something my wife had done. My wife didn't log into the This Is Your Digital Life, but one of the friends on her list did, and because of the twisted way, not twisted, but the evil way,
broken.
Cambridge was leveraging the Facebook APIs. They've now extended this message, which they really didn't even need to send my wife. It probably confused her more than anything else. But they basically said, "Hey, one of your friends did this, and because of that, we nuked this, and we just want to let you know." Yeah, I thought that was like a kind of like a weird message to send somebody, but I understand why they did with everything that's going on. Have you gotten any of these messages? Because I haven't. I actually logged into Facebook today just to see if maybe they had sent a blanket message to everybody. And my wife and I share a lot of friends on Facebook. And
so the number here is I believe 52 million people were compromised. Over 50 million Facebook users compromised, but the number of people who actually ran the app and took the quiz was in the range of 200,000. So
there was only one quiz. That's the
one getting attention. So when Zuckerberg was asked about this, he said that I don't even remember how he phrased it, but he essentially said they misused access that they were given. He didn't say that it was an exploit. He didn't say that it was a bug in the system. He didn't say that it was malicious. He just said that, yeah, they didn't follow the rules that we gave them. And now Cambridge Analytica, with its relationship to the Republican Party and the whole Russia influence scandal, got the attention. But Cambridge Analytica is one of hundreds of thousands of these apps that existed at the exact same time that probably
that was my point. Yeah, it's like it wasn't just one app, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's one hand waving over here saying, look at me, while the other one takes your wallet. Because everyone's pointing at Cambridge Analytica and saying, those assholes, but then they're still going on Facebook and posting the answers to their security questions because it has a cute dog on it. I've spent most of my time on Facebook recently telling my friends, why are you answering the question about the street you grew up on? You're a complete moron if you do this. Why are you telling people your mother's maiden name on Facebook? Oh my God. Why do you think this company is trustworthy? Stop publishing information about yourself for no good reason. Like, I just, and the smartest person I know posted something on Facebook that was personal information disclosure with no payoff, no reward, no nothing. It was just like, I answered the question, look at me. And I said, like, listen, these questions are personally identifying information. These things are incredibly valuable to companies. They scrape users by posting these stupid questions with animated GIFs. Don't feed into this. And he said, I don't use that information for anything. And I was like, yeah, but they do. They care. Like, if in the future someone wants to know how frequently people flew internationally in 1970, that information is going to be there now because everyone answered the stupid question on Facebook. And if you look at the way these shill companies operate, you ever notice that these questionnaire websites look terrible?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're poorly designed, they barely work, they have a logo, and it's some company that's just like funny gag 2018. All of these websites belong to some larger corporation that's intentionally pumping out low quality websites so that you're disarmed by the quality, so that you don't say this is associated with Facebook, but it's also not BuzzFeed. As long as it's not
wait.
company, I don't care.
You say it's associated with Facebook. I mean, taking advantage of Facebook's APIs and saying that it's associated with Facebook, I think, are two separate things.
No, I'm not saying associated with Facebook. I'm saying that they use Facebook as their platform to generate massive amounts of identifying data.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I mean, if you and I wanted to start a company that was just massive data gathering operation, it'd be super easy to register 500 domains, pump out 500 garbage templates, and then pump out 10,000 stupid questions. Mm-hmm. And everyone would say, oh, they're all different websites. They're all different companies. But they all dump into the same database that's analyzing the data and producing something that creates value out of our information. It's very nefarious, because you see, Top Dog Stories is like one of people's favorite Facebook pages. It's like, yeah, no shit, they have a corporate entity that owns them that's named Cambridge Analytics whatever, or Boston Dynamic Data Recognitions. Like, Cambridge Analytica didn't say it was Cambridge Analytica during doing these surveys. It just said, you know, what's your personality type? And that was the survey. Or, you know, it's the bigger problem is not Cambridge Analytica. The bigger problem is that people fall for these designs as if they were some guy setting up a company. But why the hell would some guy set up a domain to do a Facebook quiz about your favorite pet type? No one does that. That's data. That's data accumulation. Stop answering the questions. No one cares that you had a Shih Tzu when you were 12, except for people who do, and you shouldn't trust those people at all. If someone's really interested in your first pet and they're a total stranger, you should be terrified of that person. So that's my doom and gloom.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna refresh this beer because I have a story I'm really happy about.
Okay, and that'll be it,
I guess. I'm not going to be able to hear you and John talk about me while I edit the podcast. Usually when I go get a beer, you and John have something to say.
I was listening to that. I'm like, holy crap! I hope he, because I don't remember what we talk about, you know. And I'm like, I hope he cut that out.
No, I kept it in the last episode.
Oh, so we didn't say anything bad about anybody? That's always good.
No, you were good on this one.
Okay.
Eric, you mentioned the EULAs, the end user license agreements.
I did.
One of the most common EULAs is actually something that you don't agree to or sign. It's a sticker. Do you know the sticker I'm talking about?
PHP ugly?
No, no one wants
No.
those.
Oh, nobody wants any EULA attached to them. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, what?
Warranty void if removed.
Warranty void if removed. I have voided many warranties. Yes.
You actually haven't.
No.
No.
I feel like I have because I removed them. I'm a
No.
criminal.
It turns out that in 1975, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act stated that disallowing customers to repair their own devices was illegal. If you buy something, you have the right to repair it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting.
And furthermore, it said that telling people that they don't have the right to repair it is illegal. This has sort of been an unwritten bullshit rule for a long time because there's a missing step. The Federal Trade Commission cannot fine a company until they have been explicitly warned that they need to change their behavior.
Say that again. What?
In most cases, you would think if you're breaking the law, they can just fine you for breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
But the Federal Trade Commission doesn't have that authority. The Federal Trade Commission, which is in charge of enforcing these kinds of things, has to warn you first. They have to give you an addressed notice that says, we believe you're violating the rules and you need to stop now. This is your official warning. Next time you will be fined for continuing this behavior. They've done this in the past with BMW, where they issued a notice, BMW didn't comply, and they were fined. But they've now stated that they sent out 6 companies notifications that they're violating the law. They didn't say which companies, but the big one that everyone suspects is Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Apple is notorious for telling people that their warranties are voided if they don't use official replacement components,
Mm-hmm.
or that if they fix the device themselves, they are no longer covered under their warranty, which isn't true. They also have a tactic of upgrading firmwares or having upgrades to the operating system that disable third-party modifications. So if your screen isn't an official Apple screen, then the next time they decide they want to shut it down, they just turn your screen off because you didn't use the Apple screen. With this notification, it's very possible that they can't do that anymore. And that if you did some kind of repair on your device, or you went to iFixit or Ubreak, iFix, or whatever those companies are, that Apple can't deny your warranty claim just because someone else replaced the screen besides them. That's a big game changer. Generally speaking, the stickers that say warranty void if removed are illegal just on their own. And these warnings going out to 6 companies might mean that you stop seeing those stickers altogether.
I doubt that. They'll still put them on.
It's a giant threat. I mean, anyone that they sent this warning to is not going to keep putting the stickers on. If they send it to Microsoft, Microsoft will not continue putting the stickers on.
Yeah, they will.
The penalty is so enormous.
They won't, but they'll put it on. They'll put it on. They'll put it on. I've been a rebel for years, though. I've been ripping those tags off my mattresses forever. That's me, man.
I've been burning them.
I'm out there. All right.
This is exciting to me because I feel like I'm becoming more and more of a maker. I've repaired my 3D printers several times.
I can't believe how long you talked about that. It was like that was an amazingly long time.
The details are important.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they're that important. I think you feel like they're more important than they are. But that's just me.
I don't know. They're pretty important. I'm a big fan of details.
You love them so much, you just make them up sometimes. You just want more details.
I've been particularly careful in this podcast not to make up any details after having clearly made up half of what I was talking about in the last episode.
Oh, did you? Did we call you out on it?
Yeah, no, you did.
You did. Okay. As long as I call you out on it, I feel we did a service. Like,
I don't think I kept it in the edit, but you definitely did call me out at one point.
Oh.
I have to defend myself.
All right, I think that's good. Where are we at? We've done our time, right? We've done our mandatory community service, our parole officers.
No, this is the easy part. The hard part is when I go to edit this. I start the Audacity project on Saturday, and then I don't even look at it until like Wednesday. I drag the files into an empty project. And I just go, I don't want to hear myself.
It's tough. Yeah. I have to edit the PHP Architect podcast this week before I go to Austin. So,
what are you going to Austin for?
Going to Austin to do Austin things with Austin people, and I think there's a PHP conference going on there too. So, I might hang out with those guys.
They're not one of our dreaded competitors, are they?
Yeah. Well, we're trying to do what did you used to call it, where you were in competition but you had a partnership as well,
like a sister cities project or something.
Yeah. So this is we're heading out to Austin for the Longhorn PHP conference. This is their first year having a PHP conference. They're well more organized than we are with Wave PHP, which is happening this year as well. And it's our
laid back attitude is so San Diego.
It really is. So we had the bright idea. I pinged the Austin guys and the Longhorn guys. I'm like, hey, it's your first year. It's our first year. How would you feel about us coming out there and helping you with your conference, helping you run it and get our heads around, some of the challenges that come up. So
they said, who are you?
Pretty much. Yeah. No, what they said is, you want to help? Sure.
Hey, we're the #1 PHP podcast on Awesome Podcasts.
That's right. We totally are. So yeah, if you're going to be out in Austin, if you happen to listen to this podcast and you're going to be out, I don't even think I have PHP Ugly stickers anymore, but if I do have any PHP Ugly stickers, walk up to me, say keep it ugly, or say hi, and if I have stickers, I will give you a sticker. Yeah, you are way uglier in person, and I didn't think that was possible. I really thought you were pretty hideous on your podcast, but this is impressive.
We need a bonus prize for anybody who says you're much taller than I expected. You may not know it from listening or even watching the video, but Eric is 12 feet tall.
No, I was saying the prize is the first person who walks up to me and go, you're actually shorter than I thought. All right, Thomas. I think we're going to call this a show. I think that's fair. All right. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it
ugly.
I forget how our music even goes. Oh, it's the ching ching.
Did you hear how terrible the ending of the last podcast